Greetings. I'm looking for a spiritual practice in the mornings. I feel so disconnected. Can you please discuss yours? Any suggestions for a beginner? Right. Because I'm not sure how much you're familiar with Wu-Sabat, if you're new to it. Wu-Sabat is our culture, and within the culture, we have our way of life known as the Taruk, and that pretty much governs how we live, and that will include, what you're calling morning practices or spiritual practices. Okay, so we got a call already. Wow. Yes, sharp, sharp. All right, let's go to the first caller, Rahul Bat. What's your name, where you're calling from, and what's your question, please?
Yes. Hi, Raobat. Hi, Sakim. This
Hey,
is Kaiser.
Hey, Kaiser,
Kaiser
Rahul
Charles.
Bat.
How are you doing? Peace, brother. It's good to
Peace.
hear from you.
Yeah,
Are you
likewise.
well?
We're doing our best. We're doing our best. How are you?
I have been better because I have a slight cough and work has me busy,
Okay.
but I always want to get questions answered. I
Right.
hope you give me a good blessing.
Yeah, the weather's changing even here right now. It's cold, so this is why you gotta stock up on your elderberries. Yeah, elderberries are good for the immune system, vitamin C, and obviously continuously drinking lots of water that cools down the temperature and cleanses you as well. So vitamin C and elderberries are a good source. All right, go ahead.
I've been drinking tea.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And the herbal teas.
I'll ask. So my question was, appreciate that second. So my question was about mitochondrial DNA, about the woman, and about how the mitochondrial DNA is something that only gets from the mom to her daughter.
Right.
So I wanted to know more about that, and then how does that work with those women that they called big mamas? And there's a certain person named
you
Mama
might have
Rare
to
Bird that I want
enlighten
to
me
talk
on the
about.
big mamas.
Yeah. Particularly Big Mama is someone that I hear a lot about. Rod Hayes talking about. His name is Chief Pontiac, and I hear about Mama Rare Bird. So I would want to research about them. And apparently Malachi York wrote about a woman that's gonna get him out of imprisonment, and that's apparently Mama Rare Bird. That's apparently that. I watch a lot of Young Elders TV channels, so I be getting that from them. But I learned about Rod Hayes through them, and I watch Yuma York, and I watch a lot of Phase One, and he obviously he's talking to them. So I would like y'all to get in contact. Everyone could talk because they'll give y'all their perspective on it. Because Yuma York is the master teacher's daughter, so I want to get clarified on that. But apparently, what a Big Mama is, she has the birthright to the land, and she gives all the riches and wealth in America to her children. And Rod Hayes saying that they took her out of her Big Mama out the house, and they call it the big house. So that's the basic gist of it. But I respect them as my chief, and I know the Master Chief is a chief, his chief Black Eagle Thunderbird. So I want to know about our birthright and the mitochondrial DNA, how that ties into the birthright of our land and the gold that ties into the land and the wealth that's supposed to be given to her children that was stolen. Yeah.
Okay.
You might have to edit this, I know. Thank you.
No. I mean, so basically, yeah. I mean, in terms of, as we always express, family is family, and the people you've mentioned are family. And one of the things we don't promote or do is to, for lack of a better word, wash our dirty linen in public. So whatever family says or things you hear from family or anyone, you have to really let the people that are saying what they're saying to address whatever they're saying to them to clarify to the best of, until you're satisfied. So I can't really speak on what they speak about. And but as to the question of the female and the mitochondrial DNA, what it is that, firstly, it's passed from mother to mother, or sorry, from mother to daughter in the female, because it maintains the genetic record. And this is how it was able to be proven that the woman was here first, and the woman is the goddess, and that, you know, they did a lot of experiments to find what they call mitochondrial Eve, meaning that everyone goes back to the first female, and that's how and that link is never broken. It's kind of like how the blockchain works, where, you know, there's a link continuously, and so that's what the mitochondria does. And if you want to get into the details, you can read in the sacred records of the Gospel of Yanun, sorry, on the sacred feminine. Even the book called Is God Male or Female, that goes into in great detail. And for newcomers, because I did start answering one question before you call, we always say to people that come inside, be a part of a community, because not all information is disseminated through public forums. Some information is only passed from mouth to ear through the community and through the family. Now, what you're talking about in terms of the master's lineage, and, you know, when you look at on his mother's side, it goes all the way to what you call Old York or Ben York. And if you study and research who Old York was, he was one of those people that, you know, settled in what they call America first. He was a very good navigator, etc., etc. So his lineage goes back to Sacagawea, who they make, you know, movies of, such as, like, you know, the movie Pocahontas. But as usual, they twist and tell the story in a different way. But so in terms of being indigenous, you know, to the land that they've stolen, you know, most of what Georgia is, and, you know, the South, that's where, if you go back and look at the case of Empress, I can't remember her name. It's in a lot of our books, especially in the Set the Record Straight book. I might see if I can find that. The story about the land and how the settlers came over and stole it, etc., is broken down. So in our culture, the female is normally referred to as the clan mother, right? And you can have several clan mothers. And so all of this ties back into when we were dealing with the tribal aspect of our community. But recently, or quite recently, because that was causing certain, I would say, divisions, because when you study, and it all ties back into the tribes, like we say, like what they said American Indians, but we know that it goes back to the natives of these tribes that were there first, tying into the, you know, to the Olmecs, etc., etc., the original people there first. So the master actually said that right now he's not really pushing that word tribe. He wants us to be, it's not about the different tribes, and because that kind of causes some divisions, and it's about us just going back to the fact that we're united by way of being Africans. And so he kind of said to us that at the moment, let's put all that aside and focus on the fact that we're one people and dealing with the tribe. But of course, in terms of the injustice that has been perpetrated against us in stealing land and so forth, the rightful owners of the land are within their right to, you know, fight and get the land back. And in fact, to prove and show that the settlers are fraudsters, etc., etc., etc. So that deals with all that aspect of our culture, and we have several lawsuits and legal updates going on at the same time. So, like I said, I'm not going to talk much about the Big Mom because the master teacher, I don't see any scrolls, unless someone else can correct me, that he's actually spoken and broken that down. I'm aware of what Hayes, I'm aware of, the family members that are teaching, and I would say clarify your questions with them. But yeah, so that's what I've got to say on that point. And I've got another caller, so let me take that one. Rahubat.
Rahubat, this is Kali Monk from LA, Los Angeles.
Hey Rahubat, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing my best. Yeah, what's your question
Man, you're
today?
doing a very, very great job, man. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all the brothers and sisters with you that are doing this service to humanity, because in the physical constructs of this physical plane, it's fucked up down here. Excuse my language.
It's okay, we feel you. Okay. And everyone, including yourself, has a part to play, because this is inevitable. This time period we're living in, these changes that are taking place, there's no really stopping it. We just have to all do our best to help it happen and help to uplift humanity and raise the consciousness. So please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been doing research on Dr. Laila Africa. He's a holistic teacher. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to know your opinion, or if any one of the other listeners know what happened to him, because it's starting to be apparent to me that he was assassinated because of his influence. And he's changed a lot of people's lives. He had a very large influence on me getting myself together holistically and going on a holistic journey. So right. What is your opinion on what happened to him? Because I believe he was assassinated. He was taken out because he was 74 years young, and he lived a healthy lifestyle. They were saying that he deleted himself, but I don't believe it. So I just wanted to know your opinion.
Yeah. Again, we always have to forgive us if we repeat things, but opinions are what causes a lot of problems. And with Wu-Sabat, we try not to give opinions, because an opinion is just an opinion. We call it za'am in our language. But I know what you're saying, and I actually know or met Dr. Laila Africa myself, because he came over to the UK. I've been in his workshops and things a few times, and even got a signed copy of his book. So, the holistic, I can't remember the exact title, that one, the big thick book. And I mean, if you look at him and look at Dr. Sebi and just look at different people who, by way of what they're doing, you can see how it can have an effect on the people like the pharmaceutical industry, and people who wouldn't want you to know the information that they were providing. Because even the whole Dr. Sebi's passing was very suspicious, so I can feel your sentiments. But it's not just health practitioners, but when you look at a multi-billion industry that thrives on selling you, medicine, or, things that are more synthetic and are for profit, you can see how it would affect that industry. So I do share your sentiments, but I can't speculate, give opinions of what, but I mean, some things are just that plain. Like, we are in a day and time where if you're developing yourself, your intuition, your psychometry, your feeling in terms of not just from an emotional point of view, but like you can see things clearly using clairvoyance. So, you've really picked up on something that, I think a lot of people would have picked up on, but we can't speculate. All right. Rahubat, how can I help?
Rahubat second.
Yeah, Rahubat. Is this Terry?
Yeah, this is Terry.
Yeah, hi.
Yes,
I'm getting used to some people's voices because they're calling regular. So, yeah. How you doing today? And what's your question?
That's a good one, yeah. Yeah. So yesterday, I enjoyed the video you did on the Anunnaki.
Tour.
Like the whole breakdown. Yeah, because I'd read some material prior to that, but after the materials you read yesterday, I was really fascinated. So my question this evening, though, there's just one part where I just wanted like a bit of more information.
Sure.
Regarding Lilith and Ptah.
Yeah.
Where you were reading in the scrolls where it says Lilith and Ptah were the parents of what is now known as Adam.
Mm.
So like I've read different materials regarding these two entities, but I really wanted like to hear more information about this, maybe a little bit more information about these, who were these beings and that sort of, yeah.
Okay. Right. So, yeah, that book, you should get hold of that Master's Secret, par Anunnaki. And I don't take credit. All I'm doing is reading what the Master Teacher wrote. So all of that information is from the Master Teacher, Partner Babyanun. And the reason I actually read the entire scroll and, I do my best to kind of break it down was because the spell of religion keeps being remixed, and the Anunnaki and the Pleiadians are responsible for religion, and that is a tool that has been used to, control people and subjugate them to believing and misdirecting their energy and worshiping these beings. And the same Anunnaki, where they basically were responsible for Abraham being the father of the monotheistic religions, which became Christianity, Islam, Judaism, that had our people captive for many years. I mean, mentally, and even till today, a lot of those plagiarized stories are still a problem for people that are not really going way beyond the 6,000 year, timeline of the Adamites. And when we're saying Adam and Eve, pretty much a lot of people came across that term through the Bible and being taught through the same monotheistic religions that Adam and Eve were the first people. But as we've pointed out, through reading the Bible itself, that could not be the case, and that everything didn't start 6,000 years ago. We explain about people and beings that were on the planet, because when you do the maths of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Cain killing Abel, and then he's now afraid people are going to kill him, or we say, where did the rest of the planet come from, the people? How did they get their wives? How did they have children? It is clear that the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible is not the beginning of everything. So by way of the Master Teacher, Partner Babyanun, we've been taught that there were many what people consider Adam and Eve, because every cycle there was a restart or a reset, like we're pretty much going to be going through now. And so the problem is people thinking that God created these two people, Adam and Eve. They go as far as saying that Adam was created from the dust of the ground, and then the rib was taken from Adam to create Eve, and so on and so on, which we know is not factual and it's a fallacy. So these Adam and Eve were experiments as well, because these extraterrestrials were in laboratories creating what we call genetic splicing, or creating beings and trying to get a particular outcome. So when we're saying Adam and Eve, we're talking about different experiments, different like we say, like in Genesis, people think Genesis is the beginning, but we're saying no, it's a recreation, a refilling of the earth. So you have different Adam and Eves, what people call Adam and Eves. And the best book, I don't have it with me at the moment, it's called The Beginning by the Master Teacher, Partner Babyanun. If you don't have that, please get hold of that, because in that book called The Beginning, he explains and shows you the different Adam and Eves. So the ones that are spoken about a lot, we refer to as those original beings that came out of the waters and onto land. And in Egypt, we call the Ogdoads, right? You know, where we say Nun and Nunet, He and Hihet, Ket and Kiket, and then Amun and Amunet, who was also known as Nuit. And then after those pairs, the last one, which was 49,000 years ago, where you hear about Nikeba and what you call Zakar, because that means remember, or Cadman. So that's separate, those Adam and Eves. So those, the last one of 49,000 years ago, these were the children that was another experiment where they had to take, because prior to this experiment, the Pataites, the little people that we speak about all the time that came out onto land first, they were very passive and they were being abused, they were being attacked, they were being destroyed by these wicked beings that had been here already, like from the Hindus, from the Nephilims, etc. So they were trying to breed a new being that would not be so passive. So what they did is they took two parents, right? So when you're saying Atum and Lilith, that's the parents of the being that we know as Zakar. So they were, because of his DNA being from the Watusi tribe and the Hindus, because if you look at the images and the pictures that the master put in the books of Adam, he had wavy hair. Even though he was dark, he had wavy hair. Then they obviously took Anath and Ptah, who were from the Pataites, and you have they're like the Cushites, which is different from Kuthites. There are two, Cushites and Kuthites. The Cushites would be that Ptah and Anath. So they brought these two together because the offspring of those two, meaning Adam and Eve, were going to be a more agreeable or a more balanced by way of the genetics coming from, you know, the two sides, and it's not just the passive side of, you know, the Pataites. So that's what that story is about. And then when it's being translated and written into the Bible, they're not telling you that there were separate Eves, like Titi, and then you had, so the person they're telling you the story about, called Adam, he had a wife before the Eve that they tell you about, you know. And so when it gets to when you hear that the two sons, Cain and Abel, they don't tell you that one of those sons was not from Adam, but it was from the being that we call Nana. You see, this is why he had those disagreeableness in him. And you know, that's how the story goes, where it's confusing when you're just reading the Bible and you're just seeing that it's only one person called Adam and one person called Eve, when there were actually tribes of people. And these tribes had offspring and they had children. So there were other people already on the planet by way of those Hindus, by way of the Nephilims that came and, you know, raped those Pataites to produce people, and the 200 fallen angels that were in the land of Nod. So there were lots of different beings already on the planet before that experiment to bring about those two of the Adam, what people are calling Adam and Eve, from 49,000 years ago. But there's so much information regarding that you know, I would suggest you read that scroll at the beginning, and other scrolls that the master teacher has put out, and of course stay or join in the Telegram group so we can give you more information. All right, I hope that's helped. Okay, let me finish so I was answering the question about spiritual practices. So when you're part of Wu-Sabat as a Sabian and Nuwapian or Musbatu, you have the patriarchs that govern how you live. We do the chants at 9 a.m. and then we do the chants again at 3 p.m. and we do the chants at 9 p.m. But even within that, you have many practices that you go through. So in terms of like after the chants, we don't eat until a certain time because you have your you know, the digestive process, the intake, and then the elimination process. So you have 24 hours in a day. You break those down into 8 hours each. And so there's a time for taking food in, there's a time for you to allow it to digest, and there's a time for you to eliminate it. And that's why we would say don't eat before 12. And you know, you eat during that 8 hours, and then during the 8 hours where, you know, you're digesting, and then you have 8 hours where you're eliminating. All right, and again, this is stuff that is in the scrolls. And throughout the days, of course, you can study, read, mindfulness, of course, exercising. So it depends on your schedule, how you plan your day. You know, you wake up with affirmations, you exercise, you know, you do all the things that, you know, you would do normally, but then you incorporate Wu-Sabat with it. The breathing exercises, if you're somewhere that you can go to nature and do your breathing exercises. You're obviously mindful of what you eat. We are supposed to take water every hour by way of a glass because of the vibration and energy, etc. I'm just trying to tell you off the top of, you know, the dome, like, yeah, so you don't wake up, and obviously the meditation, you can meditate in the morning, and you can what we call morning or shadow hours as well, because we don't say night. So you have to put your plan together around the chants for 939, the breathing exercises, the meditation, the water intake, the food intake, and also try to use your 24 hours, which we will say, you know, 24 hours gauge. 24 hours is 24 is a very significant number, as you will find if you've done the online course and or read the book, our book, The Fast Track, okay? Because we break down these things I'm talking about in here. This is why we put it together, to give you a summary of everything of what you should do. But the 24, because you're dealing with the 24,000 year cycle, which became how the clock that's put together. You're dealing with breaking down things into the number 8, as I just explained, with the, you know, intake, digestion, and then elimination with the circadian rhythm. You're dealing with the fact that you have 24 trillion cells, 24,000 genomes, 24,000 miles as the circumference of the planet Earth. You're dealing with where we are now is a project known as Project 24. And you're dealing with being in this sector 3, zone 6, Project 24. And yeah, Wu-Sabat is literally the way to live your life. We have like our commandments, the 33 commandments of the Sabians, which it tells you exactly what you should do, when you should do it, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So yeah, I hope that's helped you in terms of spiritual practices in the morning. It's important to not just get up and like in a state of chaos and jump up and start running around, and you don't take time to gather your thoughts, and actually plan and manifest what you would like your day to accomplish. Okay, so you said discuss mind, so that's what I do. I never jump out of bed and rush out in a frenzy. Take a moment to reflect, relax, give thanks, give gratitude, do your chants, do your meditation, do your exercise, and then, you continue your day. If you have work to do some studying. So you have to plan things around your schedule, like what time do you need to be wherever you need to be, if you have to travel somewhere to work, or even if you work from home. And then make sure you're consistent with it. One of the things that people do is they start things, but they're not consistent, and then they struggle. And the right mental attitude is what's going to help you be able to keep that consistency. Right. Question. Can you tell me about the story of the prophet Elijah, the Tishbite? Okay, so the Tishbite is really talking about somebody that will travel from place to place. But what's interesting about your question is that the prophecy of Elijah coming back, because the previous Elijah was, because when you read the story in the because a lot of the stories that are in the Quran, because remember that you have what they call the Old Testament, then you have the New Testament, and then you have the Last Testament, as they teach in the monotheistic religion, being the Quran. And that Last Testament was talking about, Elijah coming, because there was this Elijah, the first Elijah, and in the Quran it picks up and it asks when they were asking about Muhammad if it was Elijah, and he was saying, no, I'm not that Elijah. But the real Elijah was the honorable Elijah Muhammad, because he made prophecies of who was going to come after him, and he said after him only God himself would come, and obviously the master teachers who's come from Elijah. And there's a book called From Elijah to Malachi that you should definitely read. Okay, I got another call, so we've got a greetings, Rahul Bat. We've got a video call.
Rahul Bat.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Sakem. This is Kaiser. I'm seeing you in person.
Hi, Kaiser.
And downloading. Yes, it's great to talk to you in person and talk to you, see Baba,
Tour.
He's interesting is that I learned a lot of words I never learned in school, like Baba, like I didn't know that means like a dad. Is there any other, I want to learn Mispatia and the language and all that. And I might not sound, remember I said I have a cold, I might not sound so good, but because work, stressful.
Yeah.
I always have to be there and stuff. But anyway, last time I was really interested because I watch Bida 1014. I watch a lot of guys. I like to see them. And I like those videos I sent you about that kid that does the astral traveling. I also saw many videos about different races. There's Tony the Tiger. There's the guy, I heard he's a king, like he's a tiger, that he's King Tony, he has many other offspring. So there's many other extraterrestrials I'd like to know about. So could you do like a pick 3 and make a video response to questions, or you can pick from each of these channels and make an answer for them? Because I would like to send you that. That's why I was like, that's sort of more bigger for me, because they do a lot of interesting videos. Like they showed me the video where they showed women with the dreadlocks. I don't know if you've seen that. And they were saying that these women are what they base Amazon off of. They base Wonder Woman off of. And I know I got a cold. I might not be, but that type of learn about what's outside, like I saw in your Anunaki video, what's outside this realm, physical, and the other beings that exist, because yeah, and I would want to go to Nibiru and meet Anigigi and get my brain upgraded, you know, like a teacher. Yeah, because I heard that, you know, how Anu pilots his planet, how pilots his ship Nibiru through his brain. So we can unlock our brains too. But yeah, that's like, it's interesting for me, man. So the affirmation really upgrades me. But at the same time, I feel like I'm being attacked by the NPCs, by the... You never played the game The Sims 2, the video game The Sims? Yes. There's like a diamond on their head. So there's a lot I gave you, but I grew up playing video games, like, you know, that's another thing about me. So yeah, that's a lot, right? But well, like the movie The Matrix, they showed us, like in the video game The Sims and The Matrix, they showed us the architect, the mama, the woman that was the creator of the Matrix. So there's a lot I know, but that's how I like to always those questions that I know. But for sure, I'll send you the 3 answers to the questions and the topics that you will watch. Like the Bedo channel, the Beyond 5D, and Return of 9 Ether. I'd like you to pick a few videos, watch them, and like to have a response about what or Sim Vision thinks about those topics. It'll be much faster for us to have a visual. I'm a visual learner. So yes, I can. I appreciate and love you, Ashok. Ashok. We'll talk more.
Right. So again, you know, we'd like people to ask direct questions because, you know, we're here to answer questions and not kind of like go all over the place, because there is a lot to learn and there is so much out there. And one of the things that we avoid doing is not to get distracted by so many different people saying so many different things and showing you things. We're not saying that these things are not possible, but we know that Wu-Sabat is where our lane is, and Wu-Sabat pretty much covers everything that everyone else is trying to convey, because there is only really, in this day and time, one master teacher that has been selected and chosen to come here and renew our history and to bring about this new cycle as Malachi, the son of righteousness. So as much as we could try and cover everybody's topics and everyone's things, we have plenty that we need to focus on with Wu-Sabat. And there is a lot out there. And as the truth is being unfolded for many people on everything, you're starting to see and hear many people saying things. So we'll try our best to do videos that relate to what, you know, the audience want to know about. However, Wu-Sabat being, you know, given to the world is what Baba is asking us to do. Baba Oba. This is where they get that word Oba, Obatala, Oba Atala, you know, Obatala or Baba, which means father. And he is our father. And so, yes, what he says is take this information to the world. And that's what we're doing in terms of Wu-Sabat. And yeah, we try not to get too distracted with other people and other things, because it's really about sharing Wu-Sabat, because it's the culture and the way of life that we practice. All right. Let me answer some more questions. Oh yeah, so the Elijah, the Tishbite was the Elijah before, and he was asked if he was the one to come, and he obviously said no. And that one that came was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. All right, caller, Rahubat, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's your question, please?
Hello, I'm Tabo. I'm calling from South Africa.
Rahubat.
I have a question regarding the Anunnaki. Like, I would like to ask, how can one believe in concept like the Anunnaki or other teachings that rely on historical events or beings that no one has directly observed? What framework do you suggest for individuals who struggle with faith in things they have not personally experienced or verified?
Tua. Okay, so the thing is, with any information, how do you verify it and how do you know it to be true? You know, because sometimes when people ask these questions, they've come from a whole life of being given information that they've accepted or taken on board, which was pretty much based on the religious information. How one establishes whether something is true or not is through facts, and the master teacher, being the master teacher, gave us the formula on how to do that by using evidence, using reason, and using experience. The evidence is when people can go back in time and dig up and find things that have been here for thousands of years. So there are recordings, tablets, and information on the walls, on buildings, architecture, that is still there till this day, that people can go and look and touch and feel, take pictures and verify it. So when we're talking about how do we know, we have to look at the evidence and we have to use reasoning to think of, okay, like whatever it is you're trying to establish, whether it's true or not, what is the evidence? And what is more plausible? Is it to think that there is this character called God, Allah, or whatever name they give you, where everything started from, and they created everything in 6 days and rested on the seventh day, and they're in this place called heaven, and they took dust off the ground and created a person, and then took their rib to create a woman. And as you go through all the stories in terms of then the world was destroyed and, you know, Noah took 2 of everything into an ark. When you go through all of that and then you go prove it, there's very little evidence to prove that. However, when you do it through a scientific methodology, a scientific approach, it's okay, let's find evidence. So people find evidence, they find writings, they talk to people that have been around for much, much, much longer than 6,000 years ago, the ancient cultures and, you know, different people that have been around way before the story that you're being told. And they decipher and they read and, you know, they get the information from these artifacts. So when you're talking about Anunnaki, there's evidence that provides information, and it didn't first, you know, it's like not just Dr. York that was talking about it. You know, you had people in the European that talking about it, and then you have to look at all the professionals, that the scholars and the people that profess to be the, you know, the masters on these subjects. So, yeah, I mean, the Anunnaki story, there are many tablets that have been found in ancient Sumer. You can trace, even in ancient Egypt, there are tombs and DNA that's been taken. So you have to do your research and use evidence, reason, and experience where you can experience things for yourself. All right, I got another caller, so let me go to that call and come back. Rahubat, caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your question?
Rahubat second. My name is Shagun, and I'm calling from East London. Well, I was born in East London. I'm actually in Essex, but I'm calling from Essex Grays. Thank you for all that you do in your teachings. You guys have really, you've really helped me figure out a lot of the stuff that was going on with me spiritually and mentally. But my question is, I watched your video yesterday about the Anunnaki, and the full breakdown. And there was one or two things that I wanted to know if you can clarify. Is the first one is when you spoke about the Anunnaki, some of them being left here, and then some of them being left here in spirit form. I wanted to know that in the church, when they catch the spirit, is that the spirit that they are catching? Is it part of the Anunnaki spirit that they're catching?
Absolutely.
That's my first question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then my second question would be, I don't know if you know of the white garment church called Celestial Church of Christ in Nigeria. They wear white garments. They are Yoruba. But I wanted to know, now, the first book that I really came across images of the Anunnaki. They were wearing like white garment cloths. The people, what were they called? The Dungai,
the Dingia.
People,
Yeah.
and the White Garment Church, because I'm part of that White Garment Church. So when the first book that I saw was Brother Polite's book, and there was images that I saw in that book, and for some reason it was just resonating with me. I was thinking, wow, this looks very similar to what it is that these lot wear. So I know that. Well, my question is there a connection between the Yoruba people and the Anunnaki and them forces there?
Okay.
Sorry if that was a bit much.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, so the first part about, these beings, spirit beings that came down, the ones that didn't take on flesh, they multiply too. And we tend to forget that because we always go by our experience as humanoid physical beings, but we have counterparts. But you have, once you shed the physical body, and you either, depending on who you are, you may not be allowed to leave here, because some beings have been quarantined here and they cannot leave here, or they can only get to certain realms, and that's their limit. So in terms of, yes, those beings multiply and they have children, because it talks about legions, all right? And even in the Bible, he says the name is I am Legion, and he has many, many thousands of offsprings or followers. And so, but then you also have people who have passed on, disembodied spirits, beings that are not allowed to leave here, that they roam the planet. And yes, when you're in these churches, especially the Pentecostal churches and certain churches where they do these rituals and they call on these names and they literally call on these spirits, and they do come and they possess them. And during that possession, you're dealing with a fusion of an entity, a disembodied entity with a physical body that's alive. And then that fusion causes the convulsions and all the foaming and the being thrown on the ground and all of that, where people said they say they've caught the Holy Ghost, because those are what they really are. A ghost is a disembodied being that is roaming, that is not allowed or is not able to leave here and transcend to other realms. The thing about the white garments is that a lot of that comes from religion, because whenever the angels or the beings that came and appeared to people, if you read it, a lot of the times they say they're wearing a white robe or they come in white light, and so white is associated with and being angelic and being pure, even so much so that, in weddings, people wear white and, white wedding dresses and so on, which is associated with purity. However, organizations or people who then set up their own churches, because even when we were going through the school of religion as the Ansar Allah community, we wore white, because that's what in the scriptures you're told to wear. And so that, like I said, it's associated with, angels coming in white, purity, and then other organization picked that up. And then some people will say, Jesus was walking and suffering barefoot, so they don't wear any shoes or sandals. And then the Yoruba, which is really dealing with animist, which is the original way of life of respecting nature and connecting with nature and giving reverence to our ancestors, got desecrated by influences from, like the Phoenicians, the Arabs, and certain practices that then got mixed in with that. And so a lot of people don't realize that they're practicing, it's not what they're practicing today, it's not pure. It's been, it's been infiltrated. So yeah, that's the connection and the tie-in. And we're trying to teach people in terms of Wu-Sabat to know about the beings and the spirits that they're beckoning, the tones they're calling on, and to avoid being possessed really by these disembodied spirits. Okay, I got another caller, Rahul Bat. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's your question, please?
Greetings, second. My name is Femi. I'm calling from Croydon. And yeah, so I've been locked in with you guys for a while now, and I really like what you're preaching or teaching, I should say. And to be fair, at the moment, it's the only thing that actually resonates with me. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Appreciate love you.
No, that's cool. So my first question was, who is like King Solomon, and what was he about? Because I think there's a lot of information, or there's a lot of people that talk about King Solomon and some of the things he did, but they never really go into detail. So I wanted to know what Wu-Sabat teaches on King Solomon. And then, so I just got another question as well. And it kind of relates to kind of experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see if you could point me in the right direction in terms of one of the scrolls. So I've always kind of had quite spiritual experience where I'm like aware.
Yeah.
But I'm aware, I'm conscious, but it's not physical. So I wanted to know what Wu-Sabat again teaches on stuff like that, and what scroll would be best for me to kind of learn some first principles and understand what's happening.
Okay. All right, cool. So the first question on King Solomon. See, a lot of these characters, even though we quote and talk about these characters that come by way of these religious books, and people ask us, that was the question, I didn't finish the Anunnaki question, which ties to this, when I was saying that it's like now, today, when we're trying to get away again from religion and teach the hereafter doctrine, which is what Partner Babyanun has really come to give us, which is Wu-Sabat covering Partaruk, actual facts and master secrets, we're getting drawn back into religion by way of the remix of the Abrahamic stories now, because people know now that Abraham was in contact with these Anunnaki. But the master teacher did say that we have to double back and pick up people that we lost along the way who are still caught up in religion. So we do still have to address them, but we don't want to get pulled back, because we're actually doing ourselves a disservice by not moving forward, so we can start to learn the hereafter doctrine, which is taking us to transforming us into those supreme beings, so we can learn all these things that people keep talking about, like astral projection and levitation and teleportation and all these things that we're able to do. But because remember, everything is vibrations and everything is energy. You have energy pulling you up and you have energies pulling you down, because they want to remain on that vibration to feed off of that energy. I'm just saying that to say that we do have to start to move away from these gospels, right? But in terms of, firstly, I wanted to say, in terms of your kind words, that we have the spirits are positive and negative, or agreeable and disagreeable. So people resonate. That resonation is like that vibration I'm talking about, because once you raise yourself to a certain vibration and you're connected or locked in, as you put it, with that vibration, is because you are also on that frequency, because the same resonance frequency will come together. All right, so that's that. Now, in terms of the question of books and what you can learn more about, because another thing, this is what I'm saying, that there are people out there that are talking about astral projection, and what people forget is that even though people can come out of their body and astral project, or what we call it an out of body experience, they are only still limited to certain realms. So the realm that they may see, or that they then come back and relay, it's the one that they've been to, or the one that they're able to get to. That doesn't mean that there aren't other realms higher and above what they're able to see. So sometimes people will say things and give you images and show you what they experienced when they had an out-of-body body experience. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's all that there is out there, because with us as we teach by way of the master teacher is that there are 9 realms, and within that we're really using numbers that will give you the highest number being 9, but really we're saying there are 9 to the 9th power of 9. So only the beings who are able to reach the higher realms will be able to, access those. So yeah, the books, we have so many books, and I would say start with reading books like The 30 Spirits, the ones that deal with, things like the 24 Elders. We have a whole list of books, and when I'm doing these lives, unfortunately, there are distractions because as I'm trying to answer a question or answer one on the chat, the phone's ringing, and I don't really get to go into the details. So please join the Telegram group because we always post in books when people ask us, you know what I mean? But was there a second part to that question that I've forgotten? I can't remember. That's it, Solomon, that's it. Let me just answer the Solomon question before I take this next call. Yeah, so what I was saying is that a lot of the characters that you're given in the Bible, some of them are symbolic stories. Some of them are like allegorical. Some of them are actual incidents and things that took place. So most of those characters didn't exist. So when you're saying Solomon, you're saying Sol, which is a 3-part word, right? On or Om and On. On deals with the sun, or what we're calling Heliopolis, which ties back into ancient Egypt, and that's dealing with Re. And so you don't really, it's like even any character you can think about, like in the Bible, a lot of, or Quran, a lot of that is symbolic stories about other people that have been combined and put into one. So even when you're saying Abraham, you're saying Ab, Ra, and Ham, which when you start to look into it, it's dealing with, it's all ties back into ancient Egypt. That's what the basic point I'm saying. Solomon ties back to 3 triad beings from Egypt. Abraham ties into that. The Noah story comes from the Senefru story in Egypt. The Jesus story comes from the Haru story, which they call Horus. There isn't really any character in the Bible that is not a story or a concoction that has been drafted from ancient Egypt, because they all have to tie back into ancient Egypt. This is why even all the characters, like Jesus was sent to Egypt when he was a child. Apparently, he learned everything in Egypt. Then he came back. Moses was found in Egypt, grew up in Egypt. Joseph and his family, they went to Egypt. Abraham went to Egypt. Everyone somehow has a tie to Egypt. And that should make you think, I'm talking about the significant characters, the main characters, why always a connection to Egypt? It's because the stories have been borrowed and copied from there. So we can go into much more detail about Solomon, because then it ends up with different denominations of religions, because obviously when you're looking at the Rastafarian religion, they tie back to Makeda, who we know again ties back to ancient Egypt as Ma'at Kareye, who they say is the Queen of Sheba, or in Islam she becomes Belkis, and that just shows you all of the Quran, everything in the Quran is already happened in the Old or the New Testament, and everything in the Old Testament is already happened in where they copied it from the Sumerian, and all the stuff that they're telling you about in the Sumerian ties back to Egypt. So when you're saying these Anunnaki, you're really tying back that to the Parnatharu, right, who were here first. So most of the stories are copies of copies of copies of copies. And so when we teach about them, we're teaching about them from the point of view that this is what the book says, and we're dealing with the incidents and relaying what the book's saying, and then we tell you, okay, cool. Now, let's say that person you're talking about didn't exist, but the person they've written about or copied the story from comes from ancient Egypt, and we can tie that back. And when we say ancient Egypt, people go back to the Egyptology, and that's another spell, because they just deal with the dynasties and they deal with the European version of what they're teaching you about Egypt. And we say, no, we're talking about going back pre-dynastic, going back to a time where we were, you know, in what they're called in Egypt. So I hope that's kind of answered that question. If not, we can elaborate. Join the Telegram group. Right, caller. What's your name? What's your question, and where you calling from, please?
Peace. My name is Daryl. I'm calling from North Carolina, United States.
Greetings, Rahubat.
Greetings. I just wanted to ask. I caught the debate between, well, I wouldn't say a debate, but exchange between Billy Carson and Wes Huff, and I don't know if you guys have caught it, but
yeah,
I was introduced to the doctrine by one of my friends a while ago, and when I caught that debate, I was just wondering, how would one of the Sabians or Nuwapians have responded to him, because he was challenging the historicity and the copies of these ancient texts getting grafted over to Christianity as not being valid. And
right.
So it just made me think, like, dang, I need to get up on my studies, like, what myself, because he kind of caught him off guard. And I was like, wow, these are things that I need to start studying myself in case I find myself in a similar situation. So just curious, how you would have responded to, like, for example, specifically the Sinai Bible, the resurrection being in there, and the other thing, the emerald tablets, he said were falsely claimed to be discovered by Dorial in Egypt. Those are my only two questions.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that we want to be very careful of not doing is jumping the bandwagon of, because when I first started teaching, I did mention certain people, including the person you're speaking about, and if the comments I got were like, why are we trying to fight each other and fight other people down, and I kind of I left it alone. And I think, in terms of commenting on dealing with that, I don't think it's appropriate. In terms of don't want to really feed that force. However, to answer your question, when we give the source of our information, and this was one of the things I was saying, that there are people who teach and they don't give recognition or quote the source of their information, and if they come across like it's from them, and if it's not, there's going to get to a point where they will get that type of a situation where they're not able to go all the way or defend what they're saying, especially if you're getting something from someone and you're not able to then defend it. What we do, we always explain our information is from the master teacher, Panda Babyanun. And incidentally, when he came on the scene, he was the one that kind of introduced this whole kind of debate things. And he has a series of books called the Debate Series, when he was allowing anyone to come and ask him questions and to, for him to prove what he teaches. And incidentally, I don't recall any Caucasian that actually did that. What mainly happened was, like, the Arabs funded a person, Bilal Phillips, who wrote a book, and it was a technology to set people against each other. And I'm saying that to say that when you really analyze that whole thing, which they're calling a debate, this is why we don't debate anymore, because the master already covered and debated everyone, and he said, you know what, that's a distraction, let's focus on Wu-Sabat, and he started to teach us Wu-Sabat. And I'm saying that at the time, he was the one teaching the Anunnaki information, and he mentioned Zechariah stitching and asked people to go and, research it. But with us, as Sabians or Nuwapians, we already know that these religious books only go back 6,000 years. And there are several copies of different books, like he mentioned the books of Barnabas. They're original and there are fakes. And it's the same thing with the Sinai Bible. They're original and they're fakes. And of course, Europeans are going to tell you and use certain ones and quote certain ones that they're responsible for anyway. So then they'll say they'll have the authority to say this is fake and this is not fake and this is real and this is not real. But when you go outside of 6,000 years and go outside of their scholars and what they say, because they act like they are the authority on all the information. So when you fall into that trick, that trap, then it's almost like, it's like one of the biggest tricks. Like, for example, people say my Bible, and there is no such thing as my Bible, because when you say my Bible, then you will say something and they will say, but that's not in my Bible. And if it's all one word of God, why would different people have different Bibles? So the Jehovah's Witness will have their own Bible. You'll have, other groups will have their own Bible. So it's easy then, because if you're just going by what you accept and what you decide is real and what's not real, then of course you're going to be able to defend it based on the fact of yours. So we go pre all of them. We predate the Bible. This is why we've moved away from religion, because we don't really honestly care about a 6,000 year or a 4,000 year or 2,000 year old, do you know what I mean, religion, and we predate them by millions and millions of years. Because once you go into those questions like, okay, how old is it? Who wrote it? When was it written? And where's the evidence to substantiate and prove it? When you take it outside of the realm of what, of Christendom or, the Islamic world, then, they can't really contend with that. So they have to keep it within what they accept to be true. But the answer is there are different manuscripts, different versions, and unfortunately, the ones that he picked were one of those. But yeah, we don't even really need to debate anybody, because the minute we go, we don't profess to be Christians, Muslims, or Jews, because we've moved to our culture, which is far, far, way before, and there's evidence to prove that. So that's what we would do. We would just stick to, our culture and Wu-Sabat, because they can't contend, or they don't even know what wu-nuwapu Wu-Sabat is, much less to be able to contend it. All right, so let me move on, because we've got a few questions in the chat I haven't got to. You're saying we each need to level up as individuals and master the first level. What if we all needed to level up as a whole to go to the next level and create a civilization one? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that everyone has the opportunity to level up and master this level, but obviously the collective consciousness brings about an effect in terms of the energy on the planet. So you'll never get everybody to be at the same stage at the same time. It's about the ones who want to, because some people are not going to be able to make it, and they will fade away, because this is what this new time is about. It's about bringing up a new cycle, and you have to be able to level up, as you put it. It's almost like saying, a simple example, it's like today we all use smartphones, right? And we know and remember a time where we didn't have these phones that had the amount of power that they do with the applications and the capabilities. So think about it. Anyone who is still on a very old phone and they haven't upgraded and haven't stayed up with the times, haven't leveled up, they can't experience and get what you're getting from the newer smartphones. They may be able to make a call and receive a call, and if that's all they want to do, then that's fine. But where you have at the palm of your hand right now is a supercomputer that you can do so much with. So it's either you upgrade or you don't. So yeah, that's that question. So let me keep going. Peace, love, and unity. What is the history of polygamy, and why doesn't Wu-Sabat support polygamy? This is from Jabu. I don't know where you're getting your information from to say that Wu-Sabat doesn't support polygamy. It's actually polygyny, but it's misinterpreted as polygamy, which people are saying one man having more than one woman. If you do any research and know the history of our people, we have always even in ancient, in Africa and so on, even in the Bible, polygyny was something that was practiced because by design, it was when you had a woman or female, a mate, it was really for the purposes of procreation and to regenerate and repopulate and bring about more positive beings to the planet, or supreme beings to be exact. So this is why, by design, a man is still able to procreate at much older ages. A woman can only be pregnant for one person at a time, whereas a man can have several, pregnancies at the same time. When you look at the family structure, when I said the Bible is the same, Abraham had 3 wives, which is Hagar, Sarah, and Keturah. Solomon had many. There are many instances in the Bible itself that tells you about, having more. And even now it's even worse because most of the men are in prison, incarcerated, and there is a shortage of women to men. So we do practice it, but we do it in a very strict way, and only those who can and are able to, are qualified to, because it's very strict. It's about the purpose and the need for it. It's about, the family unit and family structure, because if it's about helping each other, it makes a lot of sense. This is where, other people, other cultures picked it up from. In Islam, they say you can have 4 and as many concubines as you can support. So it's not that we do, but it's a very strict process that we go through, and you have to be able to treat every single one equally in all aspects, emotionally, financially, So it's not a thing we take lightly. It's not a frivolous action where people are just like being dishonest, cheating, spreading, diseases and all kinds of stuff, and just doing it for lust and for, self-gratification. So, yeah, so that's wrong information that you said when you said, why don't Wu-Sabat support it? Because we do, but it's done in a particular, and the rule is that if you can't meet the criteria, then you shouldn't, because you can't meet it. All right. Brother, how do I find the Injil? I know, see, when we say spread Wu-Sabat to the world, get involved, become active, help, it's because we have such work to do in terms of the publications being available worldwide for everyone that needs them, as well as, and that's all what we call, before the hereafter doctrine. So there's so many scrolls. I've got a few here just to show people that the master teacher put in the work. And there are over 1,000 scrolls that, if you imagine some 7 or something billion people on the planet that need to get access to this information. So, and in every language as well. So we do want people to get involved and, help. And that's one of the things. And the best way, I know there are people taking advantage of people with selling some of the old scrolls, that there are members who, I either couldn't stick with Wu-Sabat, and they left, and they've got old scrolls they want to sell, and they, some of them are very expensive online when you search online for these scrolls. But there are some people who are genuine, and they may have 1 or 2 copies that they're getting rid of, and they want, to sell. So until we can have all the scrolls being reprinted and available, you just have to try and source it, another way. But join the Telegram group, because we have people there that may have a copy, or that may be, we certainly right now have a copy of the old Holy Quran, this one here, translated by the master teacher without biasness. So if you want to get hold of that, the green one, we have for a limited period, a few left for people that I've been looking for that one. But as far as the Injil, we don't have that at the moment, all right? What does the master teacher... Oh, I've lost it. It just went.
Someone was saying, how is he?
Oh, thank you for all the good knowledge you're teaching from Dallas, Texas. Yeah, big up to the Dallas family, and it's all by way of Pana Babyanun, right? That's him. This is his work. We just carrying out the instructions that he has given us to spread Wu-Sabat and to teach. Read, 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 and teach, teach, teach. Made life out of clay. From holy tablets, Anu made life out of clay. It keeps jumping. Okay. But I'm saying, again, the holy tablets, again, has expired. And that was mainly a Sumerian doctrine where the master says at the end of the holy tablets, this is how it was recorded, and this is how it was written, and this is how it was recorded, something to that effect. And then he said, right, we got to move on now to our stuff, dealing with Wu-Sabat, we're dealing with our ancestors upon the Tharu. And that story, that whole chapter, many people are not familiar with. They just know about the Anunnaki and the Anunnaki. So now Wu-Sabat is taking you beyond the Anunnaki to the Parnatharu, and you know how the mixture then took place later on with the Anunnaki mixing in with the offspring of the Parnatharu. And so now we should be asking questions and delving into our ancestors of the Parnatharu and where they come from, what they do and why they're here, what's their purpose, etc. So that's why we did an extensive video, literally going through the entire Master Secret Part Anunnaki and the biblical races, so that we can put the Anunnaki, you know, stuff to sleep, put it to bed and move on. Of course, there are always going to be people who don't move on because they may be offspring or tied in by their bloodline to the Anunnaki. So that's kind of expected. Just like people who are tied into other races, they will support, or people who want to remain in Christianity, they're going to try their best to stay there and continue to, you know, regurgitate that stuff. That's an interesting question about, from the Bantu word, in South Africa comes from the same as Anu or Antu. Very interesting, because remember that the Sans people of South Africa are those original descendants of the beings that were here first, scientifically proven now, who all races have their traits from. So yeah, that's possible, but I don't know for sure, but it reasons out. But like I said, it also ties into those Pataites, the original beings. So, but there were mixers, because remember that Enki went to Africa and took wives and mixed in with, like I said, the offspring of the Parnatharu. What is your opinion on the New Jersey drones, aliens? One flew down by street going about 24 miles per hour last night. Well, we keep telling everybody, you're going to live to witness and see these things being revealed. Extraterrestrials, crafts, what they're calling, you know, UAPs, previously UFOs. It's coming to that time of disclosure, truth being told, the reset, the new change, that, you know, so people are seeing things, and it's becoming more and more difficult to keep a lid on it and fool people and lie and suppress information like, you know, in the past was done. Now it's happening too frequently, to different places at the same time. People have got smartphones, they're filming things. Yeah, so it's going to get to that point where they're going to have to, you know, just come clean. They do tell you, but they try to tell you in a way that you still don't know, because it's making evil fair seeming. A closed loved one of mine has bipolar and schizophrenia, affective disorder. Oh man, why does it do that? Every time I'm reading a question, it just jumps and then I lose the question. So unfortunately, I've lost that one. Tribal mother, what does this birth make on the body mean? Yeah, I can't make a question. I think we was killed when, okay, people are responding to the questions. He passed, but his wife is still practices. Yeah, there are other people. I think that's referring to Layla Africa or Dr. Sebi. People are, okay. What's that one? Oh yeah, that's the, yeah. Keeps hearing negative voices from these undesirable entities. From a Wu-Sabat perspective, what practices could they do to help? Yeah, this is, we did a whole video dealing with people hearing voices and the fact that, you know, people get labeled crazy, with all kinds of things, and they are able to give them medication to try and silence the voices. And we explain that you have a radio in your head, which is a receiver and a transmitter, where you can actually receive messages or be, hearing all these voices. And this is why we say know about the personalities, know about your ancestry, know about, how to recognize the ones that are disagreeable or trying to push you in that way, and then also recognize the positive ones. By studying Wu-Sabat and practicing the practices of Wu-Sabat, because we don't really know everybody's personal situation, like, their diet, what they eat, what they do on a daily basis. It's hard to give a answer for a specific person without knowing them. But in general, the practices of Wu-Sabat are the cure for most of the problems we had, and learning the language. That was the other thing the brother asked earlier on about learning the language. And yes, that's something we all have to do, which actually stops those tones from those disagreeable voices. And a lot of times when you're first becoming aware or conscious of what's going on with the different personalities and the voices and all the things we teach about, you're going to go through a period where they're going to fight to stay, because when you start practicing Wu-Sabat, you're kicking them out. When you stop eating certain things, because remember that foods have vibration. And if you're putting the wrong fuel or the wrong energy into your body, then it's going to affect you. So we have to eradicate parasites and all disagreeable things that result in your physical being sick. Even when you're being sick, there's a disconnection between your spiritual being, your soul being, your mental being with your physical being. So a lot of times you have to address and deal with those parts of you. Like if you have a lot of stress, if your diet's bad, you're not exercising, you're not breathing properly, you're not, dealing with your spiritual practices. So a lot of times your physical is the last result in terms of something going on psychologically, mentally, spiritually, etc. So that's why Wu-Sabat is here, to address these things. So read, study, and put it into practice. What book do you recommend from your studies to start with? If we got some money every time we're asked that question, and we preempted this is why we actually put this together, because that's the question we get so much, like, where should I start? What book should I start with? And we say, because we've been on this journey for a long time, and we went through the schools with the master teacher, and you're talking about 1,000 books that have been published. So we address this question in the book. Then it gives you a foundation to know, okay, who's a master teacher? What's Wu-Sabat? What do I do every day? What shall I do? What books shall I read to address certain things? We give you links to the live online course where you can interact and you can ask questions on the Telegram group. We're very supportive and we are available for people to constantly ask us questions. But at the same time, we only have a limited amount of time, like on these lives, and we can only do so much. So we encourage you to stick with it, be with us, engage with us, and definitely, study the scrolls for yourself. We do this, we would love to do this every single day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Please, I would recommend OSM to do some visual AI movies about topics in the book so we want to do all of that. We want to give you the experience in, multimedia, the best, but it all takes your support, resources, and that's why we ask you to support us in any way you can. Your donations, the books that you get, the online course, all of these helps us because we want to be able to do that as well. All right. Okay, the Holy Tablet, I already answered that. You would contact return 9. Yeah, I would contact return of 9 ether on Instagram. Okay. Oh, that was, are there UFOs in your midst? The one we covered the last time. Yeah. But there are other books. The Man from Planet Risk also talks about it. Oh, man. Who's that? Let me just big you up. Ella Abriha, if I'm pronouncing it properly. I share Sabian Nation in French in TikTok. That's what we mean. Like, if you're sincere and you want to help, translate and share in other languages. Love the content, man. You and Billy have helped me a lot with answers I never got with growing up as a Christian. Yeah, thank you. But as we keep going, just like when we were in the schools of religion teaching Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Egyptology, the Sumerian doctrines, all of them said that we won't last and that we're not real, but we're the last one standing. A lot of those organizations are disappearing or have disappeared because, it does say when the truth comes, all false things shall perish. And everyone that is really out there should be, that's teaching and they want to learn and teach truth, should bring their skills and come into Wu-Sabat. Let me just repeat the number again for those who want to call in. As the UK area code is +44 753 996 3882. So you can call directly online if you want to ask a question live. Have you seen the Bill Carson that keeps coming up? Yeah, the Bill Carson thing, just like when we called the Trump, we've called quite a number of things. And for those who have ears to hear, those who have eyes to see will see. So, watch the space. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Who's that? Arlington. Yeah, Saken is with a Q, not a K, but it's an easy mistake to make. Thank you. Have you seen The Lost Century full documentary? No, I haven't. So if that's something, sometimes I like recommendations of things to watch because you can always see the truth in the lies, in the entertainment, in the movies. Any updates on Dr. York? That's probably the most important question. And that question is so serious because what I would do is ask you, if you were in his situation, how would you feel? Being falsely incarcerated, you want to come out, and it's been over 20 years, and especially at this time when people are with their families, celebrating what they call Thanksgiving and going into this fallacy of Christmas. And just being at home with loved ones and children you've not seen for a long time, family you haven't, you know. So he's optimistic. He is thankful for all the efforts and all the people that are working and not giving up and holding on and doing their best so we can get him out ASAP. He knows it's not easy, but at the same time, obviously, he's fed up, he's tired, he's frustrated, and he's an old man now. He's getting on, and his skin suit will not last forever. So there is an urgency for us to get him out because he can take us and give us more information. Being a master teacher, the way he teaches, you get it like that. You get it straight away because he has the 3-tone voice that will resonate and spark you off and open you up. So he's doing his best under the circumstances, but would like to come out ASAP because he's innocent. And so it's bittersweet for us because what keeps us going is his legacy, teaching the information, because that's something he's always saying, get the information out there to the people. Yeah. Do you know anything about a divine spark? Of course. The divine spark is that turning you on and switching you on and igniting your being and turning on that green light within you, your solar plexus, getting you to become that light being that you're supposed to be, which is an etheric being, a pure energy being. That's the spark. Greetings from South Africa. What I love to know is the creation of the Caucasians. How and when did it start? We've covered that question so many times. And what people call the Caucasians are a number of species, starting from their origins by way of the Pleiadians, who are the blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings, and then many graftations. The Yakub graftation, we just did a video on the Yakub story and how he created the Fluger rods. And then, of course, we're talking about the offsprings from Canaan, the son of Ham, who had 11 children. And then he suffered from leproma, which is leprosy. And the tribes of his offspring are the Arkites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, the Canaanites, and so on. And they were obviously here. And then you also have the Adamites of 6,000 years ago, which were another graftation or another strain from those who were already here, and an experiment was done to bring about the modern day Adamites, okay? Okay, someone's already answered some parts of that anyway. Do Nataru have their own spaceship like Anunnaki? The whole thing about this spaceship thing as well, right? You have to think about these beings and where they reside and where they're coming from. They're in different galaxies, and to travel from galaxies to galaxies, you need crafts. And a lot of the ships that you know about, like Nibiru, people think it's just one craft. Yes, there is one mothership called Nibiru, but it has several other crafts called Nibiru. It's more like having an airline, like having Virgin Airline, and you have different sized jets. And so it's the same with the Panatharu. They have many crafts. And so yes, they do. Some crafts are able to morph from being organic to taking on a shape which can be aerodynamic, because, you know, here you have to use aerodynamics, just like in this plane, in this physical plane, in the material world, you need a physical body for locomotion if you're going to use your hands and use your feet and so on. If you don't have that, then you're in a different form. So depending on the environment you're in and where you're traveling from and through, and remember, you're traveling light years, so you can't have a craft that It's depending on just feel like how we have, you know, the planes that we have to travel from one place to another. You need a certain amount of fuel to take you from one end to the other. But when you're traveling intergalactically, you have to use different source of power. So there's a lot to the craft. There's different types of craft from different species, different beings. They show you this in many of those types of movies like, you know, Star Trek and Star Wars, etc. Yes, I'm agreeing with Sam. In terms of Wu-Sabat, is as corny as they try to make it sound, it is about world peace. It's about bringing about a shuk, which is divine love. It's about bringing in the love and unity and uplifting humanity. So, you know, sometimes we do get caught up on the people, places and things and the colors of your skin suit and the divisions, which is all what the six ether forces are about. They're about divisions, fighting, wars, killings, murders, chaos, confusion, because this all generates energy that they like and feed off from, you see. So Wu-Sabat is about world peace. People still asking this this Bill Carson. It's like it's not going to go away. I have to say though, when I watched it, and the follow-up of videos are popping up, and even his missus trying to, you know, do a video. It's not a good look. That's all I can say. I don't really want to, like I said, I don't want to dwell on it and go into it. You know, it's not. We're not haters. We're just here to do our job, spreading Wu-Sabat, spreading actual facts, Partarat, Master Secret, and it transforms you from inside out and outside in. Did God manifest himself as a female? This is from Light. The question, this is what we say, like every religious book, it starts off with this character or this being called God. And yes, it would have had to manifest into male or female or neutral gender, because everyone, and we covered this in the Anunaki video. If you haven't seen that, check that out. That's what they tell you. That's where it starts from, with God, and then everything coming from God. And if we or the people are manifestations from him, they would have to have the same genetic makeup. When we go into the scientific aspects of your DNA, your genome, you know, what are you made from, if you are also a part or come from God. So yes, God manifests initially as female, and females are goddesses and they manifest the males, if you want to use that term, God. But we know that the gods of the religious world are very limited in what they can do and can't do. So we step before the gods of the Bible and go into, you know, our world. Do other beings speak words or telepathically? It depends on the beings. Many beings have developed the ability to communicate telepathically. We do too. It's just that we have lost the knowledge and the consistency of being able to do it. But as you develop in Wu-Sabat, you start to regain those powers. Telepathy is one of those 4 higher senses that you learn, and we do it all the time. And I'm getting quite very more accurate with it a lot of the times. You know, you just think of somebody and they just come, and you're like, I was just trying to call you, I wanted to call you, I wanted to speak to you, and you just came. Okay, let's keep going. Is there any? Go ahead.
This is a question from WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Is there a firmament? How is it made? Explain.
Okay, so this question keeps coming up on again and again too. The people who say, is there a firmament, they need to explain what they mean by a firmament. What do they call a firmament? Because the word firm will, you know, kind of allude to something being firm, right? And normally this question comes by way of the flat earthers. And in the Bible, I mean, we've got the Torah, right, by the master teacher here, which in fact, let's do a video on that. I think we should do a video on this firmament because it keeps coming up, right? We're going to do a video on it and we'll break down exactly what that is. But what is ironic with questions is some people or someone will get information about something from someone, and then it's almost like forgetting that with a puppet, there's a puppet master. So if we start to look at that and like, okay, who gave you that word? Who defined that word? And what does it mean? And where did it come from? And then we will break it down and you see that without somebody giving you that term, you wouldn't be able to use that term. This is what we say about the Bible and God. Like, if nobody taught you about God, God would not exist if you didn't take it on either. So I think we're gonna definitely do a video on that because we keep telling people that we don't subscribe to the flat earth based on the evidence and the things that we've been taught, based on nature, based on common sense. But there are people who definitely think that's the case. So this firmament keeps coming up. But when you read the scriptures, if this is another thing, if you subscribe to the scriptures, because one of the questions when I ask the flat earth people is, do they believe there's a God or, a deity? And the question is yes or no. If it's yes, then the next question is where is this? Oh, we've got is our donation? Because if you do, then where is God? Where is Allah? Or whatever the deity is, where are they? Are they within the firmament? Are they where are they? And if you do, and you say you do, then the next question is, where do you get the knowledge or the information of that deity from, or that God or Allah? If you're getting it from the scriptures, or you call the Bible, the Quran, etc., then it tells you in there they're in heaven. You see? So then we have to go into that. But we're going to do a video on this. I think we need to, so that we can put it to bed as well once and for all. Okay, the book, we've already posted it, given it to you. If David bloodline is Yahweh, which is Enki, then why does the Bible days Yeshua is the root of David? Because the Jesus that you're talking about, because there are several Jesuses, and this is what we're trying to explain to people. There are people who are genuine and sincere and want to know, and they believe the Bible, etc., etc., and they want the truth. But what happens that they don't know about is that they're being tricked by the different Jesuses and the fake ones that these beings like the Pleiadians and that they're talking about. So it's almost like they play on your intelligence and your sincerity by giving you, false for truth, and you're not aware of it. And this is why we're saying, if you really want to know the truth, you have to come away from that, because that bloodline that they're talking about actually does go back to these extraterrestrials. Okay, you got another question?
This one's from Marcus on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Hello, quick 2 questions. Are there any native black people left in Egypt? And when I went there on holiday, why do the Arab guys keep calling me brother?
Right, because deep down, they know the truth. Some of them, they know, because just like everyone else, some people are searching for truth, and they will use their eyes, and they obviously read things in the pyramid, they see the pictures. And this is what we're saying, that most people who haven't taken the time to research Egypt and the different dynasties and how the people that are there today, who are a mixture, they're really Arabs. But when you go to Egypt and go to different parts, because some of them have been pushed down and pushed away. So if you went to Aswan, because a lot of people will go to Egypt and some of them are just going for a holiday and will go to like Sharm el-Sheikh and go to like Cairo. and they don't go to other parts. They don't go to Luxor. They don't go to, like I said, go to Aswan. The original, or they'll see Nubia. When you say Nubia, the Nubians are those caramel beings that were mixed from the original newborns, right, with the Arabs. And Ishmael, who was the son of Abraham and Hagar being an Egyptian, this is where the word Arab comes from, and it means to wander. And so this why even they call cars Arabia, which deals with, moving or wandering from place to place. So the people that you see in Egypt today are not the indigenous people from Egypt. So go to Aswan, go to the places where these tribes have been pushed and forced to, and you will see, like anywhere you go on the planet and look at the indigenous people, you will always find that they are the original Nagarus or Negroids, and then there are the mixtures, and and then there are hybrids, and then depending on the people that are in control and power, they're not going to tell you the truth. But if you really dig deep, you will find, even if you go to Alaska, you're going to find the original beings being from origins of Africa. You're doing a poll on the, it's just, yeah. It's not even round, it's more sphere. Because remember, the Earth, during that crash from Nibiru to Meldic and then to Tiamat, the planet got destroyed or cut in half. And that half, the bottom half, became what's known as the asteroid belt today. And that's why they're finding gold or trying to find gold from there, because by that crash, the Anunnaki then realized the same thing they were looking for, the gold, was abundant here. And so they started to do the mining of the gold. So the planet itself got repaired and put back together. And these elders who felt responsible, because it was an accident, it wasn't intentional, they decided to repair it and obviously hold it together by the power of magnetism using the science of tetrahedron. And this is something that had to take many, many, many years. And then what they had to do is change the ecology on the planet by transporting trees, insects, plants, all kinds of aquarian life forms to come here and terraform the planet Earth. And so by putting it back together, it wasn't its original shape, and it became more like an egg shape. If you look at how an egg looks, that's what it's like. So you should put in your question, is it round or flat or other or something, because some people know that it's not either, but I guess the round would be the easiest one, right? Let's see if I got, is that cool? Okay, 2-1. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to scroll through and see the most, I guess. Every question is important, but the ones that might benefit the most amount of people. Greetings, Rahul Bat, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from, and what's your question?
Hello, my name is Jabu. I'm calling from the Caribbean.
Yes. Hell is very low, so we don't
question,
like hello, but get Rahul Bat. Go on.
Yeah. My question comes from your Yakub story.
Yeah.
I want to know who was feeding on the Pleiadians for them to influence Yakub to do the work.
Sorry, your line went a little bit bad. Who was what? Feeding. Who was eating them? All right, go ahead. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Who was eating the Pleiadians?
Yeah.
And why was they hunting them?
It was a species of reptilians known as the Draconians. Because just like, it's like today, when we say to people that don't eat meat or don't eat the animals, some people have been so used to it and they enjoy it, they love it. They do all kinds of things to animals, season them, barbecue them, all kinds of things that humans do to eat flesh. These beings were doing the same to those Pleiadians. They like to eat them, just like today people go to supermarkets and buy all types of frozen or meat, even going to the market and buying flesh, that goats, cows, pigs, all sorts. And some people prefer particular types of meats. You know, some people eat oxtails, they eat cow foot, they eat all kinds of stuff because they like it. And it was the same with these beings. But because they didn't want to be eaten anymore, imagine if chickens could speak to humans, they would say, please stop eating us. You know, what can we do to stop you from eating us? What if we were to give you a substitute that was just as good? Would you leave us alone? And they made a deal and they said yes. So they created a different food source for them. And that's what happened. And then, but they doubled crossed them anyway, because they still, today, extraterrestrials are still picking up humans to eat. And if you're on their menu, then they will pick you up and eat you. This is what Wu-Sabat is teaching you, because it's about you're seasoning yourself to taste good for what they like. And you do that by the things you put into your body that, you know, that you then taste a certain way, because it's also a vibration. They love adrenaline, you know, that takes place when you're frightened. So sometimes these extraterrestrials, when they frighten people, the adrenaline rushes and they like that energy, because, you know, when they take out, say, the brain and eat it with that adrenaline, it's a rush for them. It's like, sometimes here you might like to eat something like, you know, people eat all kinds of things like sushi and whatever because it's something they like. So it's the same thing. We forget that these beings are just like some humans who love the meat, and the offspring or the people that have those genes and their genetics, or by way of their religions, etc. They want to. We got another call. They want to eat that. All right. Hope that answered that question for you. Yes, Rahubat. Greetings. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's your question, please?
Rahubat, Dre from London.
Hey, Rahubat, Dre. Another voice I'm getting to recognize calling in often.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So first question is, when you mention we have up to 24,000 cycles on this earth, etc., and if we pass over and we don't make the grades, then we're sort of brought back to redo. It almost gives me the assumption that there's still a judgment system, or someone making the actual decision on, or something making the decision on whether you make it or not. Can you elaborate on what or who or how this decision is made?
Okay, Tua. Yeah, so great question. It's like, I think I gave an analogy where I was explaining that if you had a house with different rooms, and you had a room that was white, a pure white room, you know, white carpet, white chairs, white everything, you would be very careful who you allowed into that room if it was going to mess it up, right? So you wouldn't like someone to walk in there with muddy shoes, or, you know, just come with something that's going to desecrate or mess it up. So when you're looking at these abodes, you have abodes or realms where in order for you to be allowed in there, you have to meet a certain criteria. So the highest, the 9 where our ancestors, the Panatharu, exist on, is, for lack of a better word, bliss, or that pure. It's like in some realms you obviously don't have your body anymore, so you will communicate in a different way, you will do different things. You're still able to function just like you function here, but just on that realm. So to answer the question, Parnabab Yanun is one of those beings that people refer to as the 24 elders, or the 9, the Council of 9, and the Etherians, or beings that have elevated to such a level that they're now trying to help you raise up. So yes, this is where you are the decision maker in terms of where you go, in terms of what you do, because it's about letting go of the mundane, low vibrational things that keep you on a low level, low vibration. So at each realm, it's up to you whether or not you move up. So yes, there is a judgment, and this is where our ancestors, your ancestors, all the way up to the Panatharu, they are the ones that decide on, who makes it where. And they've sent one here to prepare you. It's like, imagine you are gonna take an exam. You got different levels. You got like kindergarten, or what we call nursery over here. Then you go to primary school. But if you're underdeveloped and you can't read or write or can't do certain things, then it's going to be harder for you to move on to the next level. And when you go to, as I said, primary school, secondary school, some people will go ahead and go to higher education and go to college, maybe to university. Some will do a degree, then some will do other degrees, some will do master's degrees, some will do PhDs, and some will go ahead and, become professors or whatever. So the more you know, the more you learn, the more information you have, and then you apply that, then you're a higher being, and each being will have a job. So for example, if you're not a qualified doctor, you can't wear a white coat and start cutting people up. You have to go through the process of being, and our ancestors are actually scientists. They maintain order in the galaxies, in the universe, and even in the solar systems, because if there are many, many beings in different realms and different dimensions, that everything has to be maintained. And so you have to elevate. Imagine you're going to fly a craft like, let's say, Nibiru, which is a big planetoid ship that is bigger than the planet. And you have people that work on different aspects of that craft. So you have to be qualified, you have to be of a certain level to be allowed to certain realms, because some realms are just pure mental beings, and all they do is mental work to keep things in order, you see. So it's not as simple as just, there's no like thinking or reasoning behind it. It's about what's your purpose and what are you going to do in that level of existence. All right, so let's move on to the next caller. Rahubat, what's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your question, please?
Rahubat Saken. My name is Ian Mongi, calling from Nairobi, Kenya.
Rahubat, I'm loving to hear from people from different parts of the world. So we've got another call coming in, but let me take your question and then we'll take the next one.
Yeah, sure. My question is kind of personal because I've been practicing Wu-Sabat for a moment now.
Okay.
So I have these dilemmas because I am a filmmaker and I shoot at events which are more religious. So I find myself in such places a lot. So it catches me sometimes. So I was wondering, how can I go through it? Because, the religious thing is all over around me.
So I kind of didn't catch your question. So you're saying that you're finding yourself now in places, congregations with people since you've been practicing Wu-Sabat, and you're finding it difficult to maintain? Is that what your question is?
Kind of like I do make films a lot for events.
Yes.
And I find myself in these events which are mostly religious. So
right, I got you.
Whenever they are praying, yeah.
I got you. Yes.
Yes, sir.
It's your work. You're filming, and if it's your livelihood, then you just do your job and get paid or whatever, and that's it. Obviously, if you are engaging in conversations with people and you want to tell them about Wu-Sabat, then of course do so, because not everyone that is there is going to. They may have questions as well. They may want to know, and at the end of the day, it's your duty to share and spread Wu-Sabat. But you don't want to be, like we always teach people, don't badger people. I know it's hard when you're watching or being. I guess what you're really saying is, how do you protect yourself as well? And if you have to get involved, for example, if people are praying and you're there, you just do your own Wu-Sabat prayer in your mind, protect yourself with your psychic defense. If you have to say, like, I know what you're saying, because I used to be in situations where, you know, you might be around family and they say, let us pray or something, and you don't want to be the troublemaker. So when they will say amen, I will say amun instead of amen, or, you know, I just try to keep the peace. And but there are some people who feel so strongly about it that they feel like, I don't want to be involved, I don't want to participate, I don't want to get involved. And you can easily excuse yourself, but it's also about, you know, love and ashuk, and how you, just because you're somewhere doesn't mean that you're part of it. This is what the master teaches us in terms of being on the planet. It's like, be in the world, but not of it. So you have to learn how to be in situations, because people try to hide away from scenarios and situations and think that that means they have overcome it. In fact, no, sometimes it's more about you being, say for example, you're around people that are doing something, like for example, if you don't want to drink alcohol, it's not running away and hiding away from alcohol or people that are drinking that's going to help you. It's more about showing that when you are around those people drinking alcohol and you don't, can you maintain, or do you cave in because of the, do you know what I mean? Because of the influence. So you learn more to be in that situation and still maintain your stance, still be able to, like, maybe just drink water or drink a juice instead of the alcohol. And that shows that you're able to overcome that more than hiding or running away from it. And obviously that's not the case for every situation, but I'm saying that you have to learn that you can be somewhere and not partake and still maintain being, you know, on the Wu-Sabat. Okay, we have another call coming in. Please say your name and your question.
Same call, Dre from London. Thanks for answering that question. So I do, from what you've said, I do understand that. So I might be pronouncing it wrong, but Pa on the Babi Anun is one of the 9th that essentially will be considering your doings. My question is everything I do on this, what I'm aware of on this earth, then therefore judge? So, for example, every little thing, for example, just a thought in my head compared to an actual action I do, is every single action, thought, etc. being also accounted to that judgment?
Absolutely, every single thing. And your intentions sometimes are even more of a weight than what you actually do. Yes, everything that, because what it is, you have a disc called a me disc, which records everything. You record it yourself because you're a holographic computer, and you're a receiver, a transmitter, and you're constantly recording things in your matrix. Your thoughts will manifest or change conditions and things. So you're right, everything is recorded. And remember, you're dealing with beings of high technology, whereby the technology they use to record, it's like now, today, they're reaching quantum computers which are able to record everything about you from the moment you're born. Imagine you can have a camera and a data storage of every single thing you do, your thoughts, even when, like it says in the one of the master secrets, I can't recall which one it is, so I don't want to give you the wrong one, but it says even when you spit, everything is recorded. Movies like the Adjustment Bureau that you can watch, that kind of gives, you know, a visual representation of what we're talking about. Yeah, but yeah, everything is recorded, and by way of your, like we say, like your eyes record everything they see because they're cameras and they're solar panels and they receive energy from the sun. Everything you touch leaves an impression. Your thoughts is recorded in your energetic field, which people call the epitesp, or your aura. And so everything is recorded. All right, we have another caller. I think Jamel from. Go ahead. From, and what's your question?
Hey, my question is, me as, I believe in the Egyptian religion, and I'm noticing that, you're basically based on Nuwabian. My thing is that there's always been two tribes inside of Egypt, the children of Ra and the children of Amun, or Nuwabian, or Nubia. And my question is, what is your thoughts on both of those tribes, and why do you choose more Nubia than the children of Ra as well?
Okay, so let me clarify that. So when you say Nubia, that's just dealing with, as I said, the descendants of the newborns. And in Egypt, you had many dynasties, and we're not saying that we are one or the other, meaning that we go pre what people are called dynasty. Ra is a depiction of the being manifesting here from our ancestors, and you have many. So this is why when you say Amun, there were triad beings, and you have like Amun, Atun, and Atum, and then obviously the period where we refer to as Anun. And there were the different dynasties and the different priesthood. There was, I guess that bit that you're talking about is dealing with, say, Ankh-Aten, who people call Akhenaten, who was trying to bring about because when you look at the studies of Egypt, you had Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, which on the map is shown back to front, and then you had the different dynasties and the people that, this is what Pandora's box is all about, where when you go to the dynasties, you'll have the different people and the different dynasties. But we are saying that we go back to way before the dynastic periods of people that are following or dealing with the dynasty of, say, just Amun or Atun, and it was about bringing everybody back together. This is what Akhenaten was doing, because he was one of those beings that had a double resonance or frequency and was responsible for opening, the stargates. And so yeah, it's not that we are just we are pre Egypt, or we're not really just aligning ourselves to Egypt and the dynastic periods. We're going back all the way back to the stars part by way of Saba, or we say Sabatat, dealing with Sirius and Orion, Saat. So yeah, we go beyond that. We go way back to the stars. So we're not just aligning ourselves with Egypt. It's just that the civilization of the world, they come from ancient Egypt in terms of their tie back to these, Neolithic beings, back to the sun, which is where the Ra comes in, or Re, which ties back to the star systems that we come from. We have another caller. Dre again.
Dre, London should be third and final time.
Yeah, I didn't hear you yet, but go ahead, Zamar.
Yeah, so last question. So since sort of becoming what I would like to say woke, the little voice in my head, which I say little, has now become so loud.
Yeah.
What or how do you suggest such a being continues themselves or their path? How do you suggest they continue that?
That's the easy one, Wu-Sabat. There are, okay, let me actually address that. There are different aspects. When we say Wu-Sabat, that's like the umbrella for the culture. But within Wu-Sabat, you develop through the different aspects of the culture. So, and there are different orders as well that take you and teach you different things. So when people are asking questions about the spiritual aspects, there are orders that you go through by, you realizing once you're in Wu-Sabat and studying Wu-Sabat and learning. So for example, all the men that are listening, they should study and read a Patarak called the Sabian Man, or the Nuwapian Man, right? The Sabian Man. And as a man, that will give you kind of the next steps of what you should do. And there's equivalents for the females. And so in terms of learning the language, getting involved, because people, they like, it's not a quick fix and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. We can give people direct, straight instructions, but because of the spell and of Sixth Ether and the spell of Leviathan Kingu and the DNA and genetics within them, that they have to eradicate or do an exorcism on themselves by the way they think, by what they eat, by the practices that they partake, and getting involved with the nearest community where you are, because there are people who have been walking this walk you're embarking on for much longer than you are. And they watch and study you. We watch each other, and you participate, because people are like, how do I get initiated into Wu-Sabat? You don't get initiated into Wu-Sabat, because Wu-Sabat, you initiate yourself. Wu-Sabat is the culture. You live it, yeah? But within Wu-Sabat, the different aspects of the culture, you then decide how much do you learn the language, how proficient do you become with the language, which do you follow the instructions and be a part of the orders like the brotherhood or the sisterhood, or if you're an aspiring young student, do you get involved with the student association? If you're an elder, do you get involved in the elders association? So there are many aspects of the culture. Do you live it? Do you wear the clothes? Do you practice Wu-Sabat in terms of the things you do? So there is a lot to learn, and it's really seek knowledge from cradle to grave. But as a part of Wu-Sabat, you will then be taught higher and higher knowledge and information, all right? So yes, let me take the next call. Jamal.
Yes, can you hear me?
Tua, can I hear you? Rahul back.
Cool. My question is, I think there's a lot of similarities between the Christianity Bible and the history of Egypt. For example, like Adam, the first man, and Atum in Egypt, or Moses and Akhenaten. So I was wondering, do you think there's similarities with the Christian Bible, with the story of Egypt?
Yes, what it is because all of the religions have borrowed from Egypt, they had to, because Egypt is real. Egypt is still something that you can go today and experience. You can go and see the pyramids, see the writings on the walls, see the hieroglyphics and the people. So in order for them to persuade you to follow these monotheistic religions, they had to tie in Egypt into it. This is what I was saying before, that the characters in your Bible, when you're saying Moses, you're really saying Thotmos or Tahutimus, because who you're calling Moses was really a student of Tahuti, and he was Thotmos. And there were different Thotmos, Thotmos the first, Thotmos the second. This is where they've grafted that story of Moses from, because these people existed, whereas the Moses of the Bible they cannot find. There's no evidence of his tomb, his bones, his remains, no information about him. It's the same way with the Jesus story. They can't show you his remains, his bones, his tomb, and the fact that he really existed. With that, what they do is give you the Shroud of Turin, which is a fake and has been demonstrated to be a fake. So every character that you can think about that has been grafted, there's somehow a link to Egypt, because all monotheistic Western religions have their roots in Egypt, without a shadow of a doubt. So yes, you're right that this is what we're teaching people, that once you walk backwards past a 1,400 religion known as Islam to a 2,000-year-old religion known as the New Testament, the life and times of Jesus, to the Old Testament, which is a 4,004-year-old religion known as, the books of Moses, as in the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, did I say 5? Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, and Leviticus, right? Those are, again, you can go pre that and go before that, and you will end up in Egypt. And the stories of Joseph being in Egypt, because Egypt's alive. it's like having bait on a fishing rod to get you in. So if you can confirm that Egypt exists, then you think everything else existed, but then there are fictitious stories, letters that people were writing each other, many books that have been left out of the Bible, many books that have been discovered, the Qumran, what people have found and read, many books that, the situation with Bill Carson, there were other books that were found, like the books of Barnabas, the books from Mary Magdalene, the books of Joseph and Jesus' brothers. There are many, many, many books that people would tell you have been discovered that are not in the Bible. But you're right, the roots of these religions is in Egypt. That's why there's such a correlation between them. All right. Someone here says, I thought the Sumerians were the oldest civilization, then the Akkadians, Assyrians, Chaldeans. No, that's not true. This is what a lot of people think. A lot of people think that the Sumerians predate the ancient Egyptians. However, that's not true, because there are things that have been found in Sumer, which was really Shumar or Shinar, right, that are Egyptian, that predate the stuff that is found in Sumeria. You can find those in our books called the Language of Time book and other books. So yes, that is a common thing. A lot of people used to think and say that the Sumerians predate the Egyptians, but it's the other way around, because you had people from Egypt that went over to what you're calling Shinar or Sumer, and they lived there and have things that they found. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but if you read the Language of Time, the Parlahed Shalel Wakut, right? That book goes into that. Okay, so that's that question. Okay, that's covered. That's been covered. Yep, someone already said that the Sumerian isn't the oldest. I thought that as well, but Atlantis is the first. Okay, there you go. So people are answering that. What else do we have? I can take this off now. It's charged. Okay. And it's also interesting, people that want to give you their own version of Wu-Sabat, or give you their, try and give you their take on things. And again, remember, there's always a presence of people who are feeding off of Six Ether forces and want to distort things or try and pull you in their direction. And we always say as well, because I see somebody else that was saying how they want to eat meat. And we always say, if you want to eat meat, eat meat. Just be aware of the consequences. We don't tell anyone or force anyone to do anything. Wu-Sabat is something that you decide, does it resonate with you? And when you put it into practice, you will see the benefits, and you can choose not to. Like we say, that's why we're not really concerned in terms of, there are sincere souls caught up in religion and these monotheistic religions that we want to reach and give them the truth. But once you have the truth, it's up to you what you do with it, you see. So some people will remain, no matter what you say to them, they will remain in the belief system that they've been, doing for years. And people will just say, well, my mum did it or my dad did it, they've been doing it for years. So would you continue to make the same mistake over and over again if it's a mistake? So, like, it's down to people, but we do know those that it resonates with, that it sparks off, they will make, they'll take that inner journey and make a decision for themselves. I would never distort. I love you guys. We love you too. Yeah, we're getting calls from all over the globe, and there's no way, this is real, and it will never run out, because we're talking about, we haven't scratched the surface of Wu-Sabat. We have 76 trillion years of knowledge that the master has got to share with us. And no matter how studious you are, you only have a certain amount of time and energy in a day. So you're going to need to rest, and you can read as much as you can, but don't do it to the point where you're not digesting and absorbing the information. You don't haste and rush in it. it's not going to do a good job. So take your time, absorb it, understand it, ask questions, dissect it, break it down, do your research, and you will see how much information is really out there.
5 minutes left.
Wow, we only got 5 minutes left. It surprises me sometimes how quickly the time goes. Yeah, I'm just going through just to make sure that people that have questions, some of it is great. You guys are just having a conversation, so I'm just reading through and skipping through those.
Someone asked about birthmarks.
I didn't see that one. Can you read it for me?
Yes.
Please.
Where do birthmarks come from? Is it related to reincarnation?
Okay. Birthmarks can come from many sources, from your genetics. So, for example, the master teacher taught us by way of the scroll Man from Planet Risk that because genetics is all to do with hereditary. So he explained that, for example, if I had an accident and I broke my leg or my arm, I did it the other way around, my leg or my arm, although my arm may heal, the genetic imprint will remain. So when I have an offspring or a child, they may have a mark or something in that spot, and it's related to me and my DNA and my genetics. But there are different reasons for birthmarks. Some of them are just, like I said, genetic. Some could be from ancestors from prior to you, given that same example I just gave, where it's directly from your immediate parents. But some of that can come from their parents and their parents and their parents, going back to your full generation of ancestry. So some could be marks from beings, extraterrestrials, that can step in and mark you, and then it heals or whatever. So, and that might sound spooky to some people, but the master has also taught us that you're dealing with beings that operate outside our time zone. So interestingly, the application or the app called TikTok, people don't realize the significance of that name. It really comes from time, as in the clock tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And the master teacher explained to us many, many years ago that if you're using the lowest denominator as a second, which when you count, you go 1, 2, 3, and then you can go first, second, third. How is it the first or the lowest unit of time called a second? What about the first? So the first is being missed out. This might go over some people's heads, but follow me. So you're going tick tock, which is referred to as seconds. So old clocks or analog clocks have a second hand, right? And if that's the lowest unit for measuring time, what is in between the tick and the tock? Because that's time that's not being addressed. So he was explaining that the reason the lowest, the smallest time measurement is a second is because we as nine ether of beings that were here first operate on first. And so beings that came second from us, they operate on a second. And he's saying that extraterrestrials come in between the tick and the tock, meaning they're outside our time zone, and they could step in, do something, and step out within the space of the tick and the tock. You see, so beings can step in, freeze time, do something, and leave and carry on, and you won't know the difference. And this is why many people who get abducted, they sometimes have a feeling of lost time. And they could pick them up for days, bring them back and put them in the exact same position, and they won't even realize they've been missing for days. And this is depicted in movies where people will be like, what day is it today? And when someone says it's Wednesday, they're like, they only remember being there on Monday, but it feels like nothing has happened, but it has, and there's this element of losing time. So I'm saying that to say that all kinds of things are happening within different realms, different extraterrestrials, different situations, you traveling to different dimensions, being taken and brought back. Not everybody, of course. I'm just saying that there are many instances where these things are taking place, and that relates to the birthmarks in terms of, and when sometimes they will implant things in your body and then remove them and the scar will be left. Or you will wake up with a mark on your body and you're like, where did this come from? Or you might feel something tiny in your body because you're dealing with transponders and tiny, minute things that they can insert in you. Some of them are for tracking you, monitoring you, if you happen to be related to them, or they want to use you in some way, shape or form. They want to be able to find you, so there's a lot to why you may have a particular scar or mark on your body. Okay, I am from Baltimore, Maryland, and I know what I am. Been following Dr. York for a while. Love you guys. Keep up the good work. That's great to know. Yeah, that's another thing. And the person who asked about how the master teacher is, if you can leave a testimonial or a comment in the chat or in our Telegram group, which literally just got posted, again. So if you can actually join the Telegram group and leave what impact or effect Wu-Sabat is having on you, or the master teacher has had on you, that's something that he loves to hear about and to read. So yes, please, if you have that, that's, that doesn't cost anything. It's just you being sincere and sharing your experience and story. We have run out of time. It's already gone. And the next time we will be live is this Saturday. So you can join on Zoom and on Clubhouse and ask your question then. But if you can't wait till Saturday, remember you can join the Telegram group right now and continue asking your question. The beautiful thing about Telegram, our official Telegram group, which is OSM, Wu-Sabat, Ask Us Anything. You can search for that on Telegram or follow the link, is that we have many other student teachers in the group. Because we're in different time zones, it's likely that whilst I'm resting and rejuvenating, there's another teacher in another time zone that's up, and they will be able to answer and address your questions. So we have many competent student teachers in the group that answer questions. So you can continue asking your question and be patient sometimes, because everyone might be resting and may not see your question till they are awake or are able to address it. So yeah, sometimes be patient, but we do. Okay, we got one last caller. You just made it. So let's take that and then we're going to wrap up. All right. Hey, Rahubat, greetings. You're the last caller, and it looks like it's a sacred feminine. Glad to hear from you. What's your name? What's your question, and where you're calling from, please?
Yes, my name is Dorinda. I'm from Oakland, California. And I was just wondering, when I'm reading or thinking about the Kemetic, the ancient Egyptians, some of them, I didn't know, was I supposed to take them symbolically or literally, like Thoth? And so many others, I was taught that wasn't real. Are they real or symbolic?
Yes, they are real. They're real.
Oh.
But the thing, what's happened is that the real stories, the real incidents have kind of got Chinese whispers, or then they got mixed up, and then different people who couldn't interpret what the incident was about, they kind of made it up or added different things to it or claim it to be them. It's like even today, there are people who would try and claim being the master teacher, but then they can't do the work. So if you put them to the test, or they don't allow themselves to be in a position where everyone can scrutinize and question them to know for themselves, because we know things not just by reading but by our eyes, by our energy, by what we feel and how we resonate with people. So yes, there are true stories, true people that had children and walked the earth. And because the depiction of some of these ancestors are like with masks on, because even myself, before I really learned and studied the Egyptology by way of the master teacher, I was even wondering why these beings had these heads of animals and things like that. And in religion, they then made it like it was pagan. We worship, pagans and all statues and all this kind of thing. And then when you study, you realize that these were just masks and they were depicting ceremonies that were taking place, or a being that was related to a particular nature in terms of what they did or their job. They got associated with a particular animal, like a falcon, or in terms of Horus, or like Tahuti being the scribe and having that beak. That beak is symbolic of the quail, which is like what we would call a pen today, something that was used to write, because he was an author, and he wrote a lot of sciences and the information pretty much that's on the planet today. And then he traveled around or incarnated in different times to reset things like what's happening today. And the cultures that he went to or taught, they gave him a name or called him a particular name. And so the people that knew him by the name of their language or culture, this is why he's known as Thoth, he's known as Tahuti, he's known as he's known by the Greek
or something.
Yeah, Hermes, Trismegistus, and different cultures then would label him a different name. And in the case of, this is another thing that ties into the Bill Carson thing, that I when I watched that part where he was saying that this Jesus went to India, and we have already taught and we teach that there were 3 different Jesuses. And so it wasn't the same one that went to it, because the brother was saying to him, how could he have walked this distance from here? Because there were different people. And the one that went to India was known as Saint Isa by the people in India. And that till this day, this is why you have Christians from India, even though that's not their original way of life, because the one that traveled there and taught, and he learned, the Kabbalah and certain things, and then you had another one. So if you don't know that information, then someone who's saying to you, how can that make sense that you have 3 different people in 3 different places at the same time? These are the types of things that you can't, if you can't decipher, you're going to get caught up, because it'll be like, how can you be in 3 places at the same time if you're the same person? But that's just to give you an example. But yes, our family in ancient Egypt, like, again, the last thing I would say in relation to that is like the story of Osiris and his brother Seth. And these are not even the names that they use, because they had tritones or 3-part names. So Asar, Asaru, and that became, Osir, Asaru, and Asar became Osiris in Greek, because they then translated that being, that person, into Osiris. The same with the female, his wife, who we know as Arashtat, which became Ashtat, which became Isis. And then she's then known by many, many names in different culture, Ashtaroth, so many names. But then you have Seth, who supposedly becomes the bad guy because of what he did with Osiris. And then, of course, their offspring being Haru, again, people say Hiru, Haru, Ha, and it becomes Horus in Greek, you see. So depending on the culture and who's telling the story, they will try and claim them or use the language that they're familiar with. So I know I gave you quite a lot, but if there's anything you want to come back on that, or if there's anything I missed out, please go ahead, because this is the last question.
I just have one more thing. Did Thoth was he a pharaoh for 5,000 years? Is that true?
Okay, again, the time, that's an excellent question. The time thing, like people will tell you, like, for example, Noah lived for 925 years and this person lived for this amount of time. And that is a distortion as well, because what it is that although depending on which time zone you're using to measure time, because we measure time based on, the planet rotating around the sun, that gives us 365 or less, because they mess about with the different time zones and, leap years and taking days on and off, because the Gregorian calendar is what we're going by, but different time calendars use different times. So I'm saying that to say, like, the legacy of somebody surviving for a long time. So, for example, people that like Michael Jackson or Bob Marley or people like James Brown, people that have left a legacy and they've long gone until they fade away to the point where no one is talking about them anymore, because there are people like even the Caucasian Elvis. Well, he was actually a Venerian or from another star system, which is a completely different story. But their legacy has lasted for, say, hundreds of years, and that people will say they lived for that length of time, but not necessarily that they lived that long. But there are also people who, before we started to die in terms of our genetics and like being mixed in, we could live a lot longer. And there are people who are able to, like, for example, the story of the person people call Adafa, who was taken up and he didn't actually die in that sense. And there are people who, even now, like, you have astronauts or people who like go to space, and because they're now in a different time zone, when they come back, they haven't aged, because you're not affected by the rules of, being here, like what makes you age when you're here. And so there's so many different aspects of what's going on, and depending on the story, the time, the location, the people telling the story, this is why we have to always make people realize that with each incident, we have to go into the right knowledge or the actual facts about it, and not just based on the religious stories that have been handed over for generation and generation. I hope that helps.
Thanks. Yes, it did. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So, folks, family, we have to, we've gone over time today by 12 minutes, but it was worth it. It's always worth it. And join the Telegram group and we can carry on with the conversation. Take the basic online course. It gives you a solid foundation that you can then progress much quicker, because you can quickly get rid of the lies and the things that you're not sure of. Oh, is it true? Is it not true? We get to the chase and then we give you what to do and then recommend books. So until the next one, peace, love, and unity, and be the person that you want to see in this world. Be the example, like the master teacher does. He puts it like this: let it be known by way of your actions, because action speaks louder than words. Until next time, next week, same time, same place, live in OSM Vision, live in our Telegram group, and you will make so much progress so much quicker. Put Kawun, Wadu, as we say in Miss Batia.